everyone can see and hear.
Cool.
Now.
And I'll get ready to twit it out.
Twit it.
Even with this new, it's still, my collars on my shirt are still weak.
The what you call it?
Yeah, this new clip.
Oh, yeah. Is it any better?
No. I mean, I had a strong shirt the other day, but this is like a regular T-shirt, and this is
it's disappointing, Jared.
I know. I mean, how do you think I feel about it? So
Indifferent is how I think you probably feel.
Both you and my parents feel this way about it. So
that you have weak shirts?
What? What happened?
Nothing.
Okay.
That you need better cotton in your life?
Maybe.
Well, that's how I feel about it. I didn't realize your parents also felt that you needed better cotton in your life.
I'd wear a mic necklace. That's a good idea.
Oh, that's actually a pretty good idea.
I'd totally wear that.
Yeah. Actually, I wonder if that's a thing.
Can I run a quick intro really quick?
Yeah,
yes.
Do whatever you need to do.
Please.
I feel like anytime I go a couple weeks between shows, I'm just like, what am I? What is this? So we're still doing it pretty like, hello, welcome to tomorrow, and then like diving right in, right? Establishing credibility.
Yeah, so you're gonna say, hey, I'm Jade, this is Jared. We're gonna actually, we're gonna be on the logo. So when you first say hello, we'll be up on a graphic screen that just shows the episode number, and then so you introduce yourselves really quick, and then
Hi.
And then establish credibility, and then just go straight into it.
Dope. Hi, I'm Jade. I'm going to turn it into a rap. Just kidding. Hello, welcome to tomorrow. My name is Jade Kim. This is Jared Head. Today we have the honor of sitting down with the wonderful Brittany Zimmerman of the Space Development Corporation, a world-class aerospace company that specializes in life support and thermal control in extreme environments.
Thermal control, that's not that important.
Okay.
Yeah,
so, my bad. All right. Wait, really? Like, don't say any of that?
No, you were good.
Jeez. You know I can't read tones.
So Jade, one thing you do want to try to avoid is thanking her for being on the show right up front.
Oh.
Because that stalls the conversation.
Okay.
Just first question. Don't say thanks for taking
No need for niceties.
Questions.
Yep.
Questions.
Screw the pleasantries.
And now we're going to get right into this. Question.
Brittany, tell me everything.
Only Jared.
Give me the full rundown.
42.
Yes.
42.
Correct.
Actually, that's a good point. So you're going to say, life support systems and thermal, and just be like,
Can you?
and then just build a question right off of
Got
that.
it. Because that's normally what I do, because normally that's just how my thoughts operate. So, what's that?
Yeah, do that. What's that mean? Why is that?
What that?
What that?
How does?
How do? Uh-oh. Well, I done goofed.
Way to go.
My snackies.
All right, we're recording.
I'm not good at being wired. I'm just not good at wearing full shirts, for sure.
Oh my gosh, the hands-free microphone holder. I love it. I would totally grab that if you made me do like a man in the street kind of thing.
Oh, man.
So.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
That's amazing.
To do more,
I love
site
it.
Stuff. All right, hold on. I gotta go.
Hold on.
I gotta let the people of the internet.
I was gonna say I gotta let the people of the internet know that we are doing the show. Whoa.
Guys, I cut all my hair off. Just kidding, but I did cut it all off. It looks like I have a mullet now, or like I don't know. I just was like, make me look like a mom from the 80s, and they're like, got you. Hey, how do you feel about doing a science today? I know Brittany Zimmerman's ready. Uh-huh. I know Jared Head's ready.
You meant the space?
Passed out. I know I'm ready.
She said science. How do you
feel about doing Ew. Don't want to hear my voice. Jeez. Gross. When I tried to zoom in on you, it like spazzed out. It was perfect.
If there was ever any word to describe me, if you had to take a single word to describe me, that would definitely be it.
Good.
Jarred.
Spaz?
Yes.
Jarred. Jarred.
All right, we're about 7 minutes out, everyone.
You're 7 minutes out, everyone.
It's true, as is everyone else here.
You're everyone else here.
That's not true.
That's not it.
You are life.
Does Paragon
You are
Space
love.
have a Twitter account?
Actually, that's kind of.
I think so. I'm terrible at that stuff.
Yes,
but yeah,
actually,
let me look it up.
No, it's Paragon
Freak.
SDC, I think it is.
DC. Yeah.
It's actually on your name banner. That's what we used for Twitter.
Sick.
Nice.
Nice. That's cool.
Because I'm winning.
Because I don't have a Twitter.
What do you do now? It's Paragon SDC.
Nice. My very own.
So you're in Arizona, right? Phoenix?
I am. I'm in Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson. I don't know cities very well, but hi.
We're pretty close. We're about an hour and a half apart, so it's not too bad.
Okay, that's cool. That's very gracious of you to be nice. That's like me being like, oh, that's like somebody like telling us like, oh, you are from California. You must live in Beverly Hills. Anaheim, but close enough.
What's the question? Mute me for a minute.
No, but really, your cat is majestic. How old is it a she?
It's a he,
how old is
and he is 13 now. So.
Oh my goodness, silver fox.
Old man. Yeah.
He wears the age well. I have a son.
does.
I have a son. His name's Mr. Rogers. His first birthday is in June, so he's
Woo!
still a young whippersnapper.
Nice.
But he is life.
Do you make him dress up in like a sweatshirt every time he comes in the?
Only on the holidays.
Yeah.
I will be getting him a birthday outfit. In fact, I'm going to be throwing a small get-together for him.
That sounds amazing. I expect an invite.
I
feel like that was an
Name
invitation.
demand.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to forego my own birthday celebration in lieu of having one for Senor Rogelio.
You make him change his shoes when he comes in the house.
Aww. Change your paws.
I haven't seen that movie yet. I heard it's pretty good.
I haven't either, but I hear it's definitely going to make you cry, and I love crying.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't know why I said that.
It's my favorite pastime activity. When I'm not working, I enjoy crying.
Imagine. So, Brittany, what do you like to do when you're not working? I enjoy a nice occasional ball.
I just
get in the shower and I just let her rip.
I just love throwing my hands into my face and just feeling the warm tears evacuate my eyes.
I like you, Brittany. You're neat. Can't wait to learn more. All right, let's see.
Colton,
I'm excited. I could talk about space forever.
All right, let's do that.
Let's do that.
Challenge accepted.
What that? Oh, apparently we're parents now, Jared. You and I have children.
We are? What's our children?
It was decided in the chat room. J squared means, I don't know why that would mean that, but
Because we're the J crew.
yeah. So people who have J names procreate. They have children. But
You do?
It just happens
What if I don't
spontaneously.
want children? Oh, they just spontaneously appear.
Wait,
Yeah.
am I your children?
I don't
Do you wanna
think
be my
that's
children?
how this works.
Oh.
I need parents. I'm up for adoption.
We would love to adopt you.
I think in order for you...
At 29, that's right.
I think in order for you, Higginbotham, to have to be our child, we have to go near a black hole first, and then
Oh yeah. So
Like
time
that.
dilation.
yeah.
Mhm.
According
So possible.
to Shandon Sina, they said this is what happens when you don't read the context, and they're absolutely right. Because all I did was read one random comment that I just looked down upon. Didn't bother reading what was before or
Yeah,
after.
I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but I'm not exactly not going to roll with it. That was a lot of knots.
Because Escape NCP says squared implies multiplication.
Well, no, squared is multiplying.
Go on. Tell me more, master of math.
I'm going to answer Citizen 43 something question really quick. Who said, I'm wondering if someone forgot to put the progress bar on the Falcon Heavy webcast. Did not forget. If you go back and look at the beginning of the Falcon Heavy webcast, there was a progress bar, but there was a problem, and I was forced to remove it because I felt that no data is better than bad data. And so once I removed it, there was no easy way to bring it back. So it will be back. You'll see it in future F9 flights. I just need to fix that. Like, I know exactly what I did. It was totally my screw up, but yeah.
It's Citizen Science Day? What's that?
Citizen science!
That's
Science!
when you allow, like, mortals to do science.
Oh, no, I know what it is, but I didn't know there was a day dedicated to it.
I didn't know either. Happy Citizen Science Day, everybody.
Science!
Happy day. Just another day in paradise.
I do citizen science all the time.
Science!
Well, this is going to be a long show.
Well, we're not going to be talking about science too much on the show today. You muted.
You can still hear it echoing in the
Nice.
background.
Yeah, I don't know if this is why you should not only just watch live, but you should watch live in studio. Highly recommend it.
Science!
Dear God.
Calm
Somebody
down.
escort them out of the premises. Please.
Why are the children behaving better than the parents today?
1
So, one what?
minute!
Oh, okay.
I think he just shouts random numbers and knows what he's talking about.
3. Toost.
7.
What was the new number you came up with?
Let's go.
Do we have to? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do that.
Hold on. Hold.
Hold.
This fell. Hold on. This keeps unplugging. Hold on. Sorry. Oh God. I've ruined everything. We're done.
All right.
Why is it, dude? This thing's like defective, or I am. I'm defective.
All
Hold on.
right.
Sorry. Let me make it so that this won't keep unplugging. Oh God, I'm so embarrassed. Please don't look at me.
It's fine.
Okay.
All right. Take 20.
Okay, go. Well, hello there, Tomorrow. I'm Jade Kim. This here is Jared Head, and today we have the exquisite honor of sitting down with Brittany Zimmerman of Space Development Corporation. Are we? I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, first of all, I was a little confused. Are we keeping it like this until we bring her up?
Yeah.
Fuck.
So you're fine. Just remember to add the episode number in there. I'm
Hello,
Jade. This is
my name's
Jared.
12.13.
Here's Jared.
This is the thing that we're doing.
We're interviewing Brittany Zimmerman of Paragon Space Development
Orbit
Corporation.
12.13.
Yeah, I say that towards. This is Tomorrow Orbit.
you
Should I
didn't-
put that at the very beginning?
If you want.
Welcome to Tomorrow Orbit.
Orbit 12.13.
Yeah.
Rage in a cage. Let's go.
Otherwise,
Let's do
you were
it.
fine. You could have just kept
Thank
going
you.
through it. Yeah,
That's
you would.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, cool. Thanks. Oh, hi there. Welcome to Tomorrow Orbit .12.13. My name is Jade Kim. This here is Jared Head, and today we have the exquisite honor of sitting down with Brittany Zimmerman of the Paragon Space Development Corporation. It's an innovative, world-class aerospace company that specializes in life support and thermal control in extreme environments. Hello, Brittany. Can you explain anything that I just said about Paragon?
Yes, I can do that for you. So what our company does is life support systems. So that is keeping people alive, not like a doctor, but in equipment, essentially, on board spacecrafts, habitats for planetary surface operations, spacesuits, and we do it in extreme environments. So our primary area is in space applications, but we also do terrestrial applications as well.
Very neat. So can you explain a little bit more about the aspect of life support? So like you said, not like a doctor, but in that basically just having people survive. So can you explain a little bit about what goes into that?
Yeah, for sure. There are a lot of portions that go into keeping people alive in space. So one of the things that we specialize in is water reclamation, because water is obviously an important substance to have during any mission for life. We do air revitalization. We do radiation protection. We do thermal control systems. So basically, if you think about a mission going out into space that would only utilize robotics, that is not something we probably specialize in. As soon as you add human exploration into any of your missions, that's kind of where we come in. So it's, temperature control, nutrients, water, air, making sure that pressure control is correct. We do humidity condensate, so making sure that the correct amount of moisture is in the air and not condensing on any of your instrumentation. It's we do radiators, for example, as well. So we have a lot of stuff going on.
Very cool. So then, with what you guys have developed thus far, what kind of applications can be made in terms of, I guess what I'm asking is, how extreme of an environment can these systems acclimate to?
Some pretty extreme, obviously space is not made for human life to exist easily. So we can operate in vacuum. We do a lot of stuff terrestrially as well. So we do dive suits, so high pressure applications as well as vacuum applications. We do some stuff for the mining industry. In the past, we've done that. So I can't think of many environments in which we wouldn't be able to operate. Maybe high acidity environments. I don't think we've jumped into that. But other than that, I think we've done it all.
Very cool. And Brittany, I'm sure you guys work in things like vacuum and high and low temperatures and other things like that. And Wicked is asking in our chat room, does your work include MMOD shields, which is micrometeoroid shields? Keeping yourself free of extra holes seems like a fairly important part of keeping someone alive in space, which is a pretty good point that they bring up.
Yeah, certainly. So MMOD is something that we take into consideration, but we don't necessarily make shields for it. So the structural component of a spacecraft is usually designed by another company. But what we are responsible for is being able to continue life support if some sort of breach of the barrier were to occur. So we have leak rates associated with different MMODs that were, if they were to break through the shell of a spacecraft, how much oxygen, nitrogen, what kind of pressures would we need to be able to pump into the environment to keep astronauts alive for a required period of time with certain requirements from whichever spacecraft we're working on at the time to ensure that the crew would have an appropriate amount of time to fix that problem and still be maintained.
Got it. And kind of going off of that, a question I had as well as Travis Neal from the chat asks, didn't Paragon do the life support assessment for Mars 1, or did they refute it?
No, Paragon, that was before my time with Paragon, but Paragon, I believe they did Inspiration Mars, and I'd have to ask Barry if we did Mars 1 or not, but I think that we definitely looked into it. What the conclusions were on that, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, so interesting stuff about that then. So just to kind of, talk a little bit about how Paragon themselves work, Destructor 1701 is asking sort of like, what's the mode of operation for Paragon? Are you manufacturing the hardware? Do you consult subcontracting on design work, or do you do a mix of both of those?
So we do a lot of stuff. I think it makes for a healthy business model, of course. So we do a lot of, we do some manufacturing in-house. So we do have our own manufacturing department, but it's mostly utilized for a few programs. We do a little bit of outsourcing for manufacturing work, but a lot of the engineers utilize our manufacturing departments in order to fabricate prototypes and things like that, because we do a lot of research and development. So we do a lot of SBIR contracts, and we do subcontracting. And we use our manufacturing department a lot in order to, proof of concept or feasibility studies on some of our lower phase SBIRs or STTRs. We do a lot of government contracts, but we also do private contracts. So we're kind of all over the board. And I think that's really nice, because as things ebb and flow in the industry, as we all know they do, we kind of always have something that we're looking at, working on. So I think it also gives a lot of the engineers a wide spectrum of things that they can become experts on, or things that they are familiar with and are working on. So if you're kind of bored of something one day, you can work on something else the other day. So, I mean, we have contracts right now. We get to work on the Dream Chaser. We are actually designing the radiators for the Dream Chaser space vehicle. We're doing the humidity control subsystem for the CST-100. Yep, there she is. So we have larger contracts like that on top of our, we have our NASA contracts and SBIRs associated with that.
Very nice. So it sounds like you folks are plenty busy, but I have a question for you personally. So what ultimately inspired you to even get into this industry, and specifically in life support systems?
Life support systems. So I think I've always been infatuated with space since I was a little girl. So I always knew that I wanted to be an engineer, and I went and got my mechanical engineering degree. And I started my career in aerospace, actually. So I actually worked on aircrafts before I moved into the space industry. But I had an astronomy professor in my undergraduates program. His name was A. James Mallman. And he's, I think, really one of the people who pushed me into I already knew that I loved space, but making me think about space as a career option instead of as just something that I enjoyed as a hobby. And while I was working at Rockwell, I heard about the University of North Dakota's space program. I was Googling and I was like, what is the best space programs in the world? And it's a program up at the University of North Dakota. And it was actually Buzz Aldrin helped found it. And they have such an amazing curriculum there. I applied to see if I could do it kind of as an online option while I was working full time as an aerospace engineer. And when I went up for orientation after I had been an online student for a while, I got to see some of the laboratories that they worked in and the things that I could have been a part of if I went there full time, and I couldn't say no. So I got the choice essentially of different programs or projects that I wanted to work on. And I just fell in love with life support, specifically bioregenerative physical chemical hybrid life support systems. So that's utilizing living organisms, higher plants, algae, bacteria, and things of that nature in order to provide life support in extreme environments. So I got to help develop the greenhouse module for the inflatable lunar Martian habitat. It's a NASA-funded program at the University of North Dakota. The same habitat that I actually got to do my first analog mission in. So I guess that was kind of my introduction into analog missions as well. And there's something that just makes you want to get up in the morning and go to work. And when I was an aerospace engineer and I worked on aircrafts, it was interesting, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I would have mornings where I'd hit the alarm button 4 or 5 times before I'd get up. Now it's not like that anymore. Now I dream about my job. I think about it in the shower. I think about it all the time. It's a new sense of fulfillment that I am really excited to have in my life.
And that is so fascinating because it really does say something when, you can literally spring out of bed and, as you said, feel fulfilled. What aspect of it makes you feel fulfilled? I mean, is it the fact that you're developing things that are going to further humanity's reach in space, which is a huge thing unto itself, but can you kind of dive more into that, like what that passion is?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the issues that I've had in a lot of my previous roles internally was that I get bored doing the same thing over and over again. So in this specific role, you're not only working on programs that get to keep astronauts alive in space, you're adding to our scientific discovery as a race, as a human race. You get to continually learn, and education is just fundamentally part of me. Like, I love learning new things. I love bettering my understanding of the things around me and how everything around us is and why, and how we can develop more knowledge about these things, because I think the more that I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything. Isn't that the problem with education? With every answer you get 30 more questions. And then on top of that, I have such a great crew of people that I work with. So that is also just a major bonus. We have a pretty small group. We're less than 50 people in our company, but the talent that is there is outstanding. And the passion for space is absolutely ingrained in every single person that I work with. So it doesn't feel like a chore, even when we're like working long hours, because you can feel the excitement, I think, between me and a lot of the other people that are in our company. And being able to do that, and then on top of that, working so many different programs at the same time and having your hand in, like, we're not providing small bits to the programs. Like, I really feel like everything that people have to contribute is a large contribution, and just having that satisfaction and that, you know, that pride that goes with knowing that you did something. I remember my very first program was assigned to me. I like looked at myself after taking my job and I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do that. Like, I'm going to be fired immediately. This is difficult. And I remember I picked up a bunch of my textbooks. I started learning. One of my coworkers, Thomas Kenyatta, he really helped me out and kind of pushed me in the direction, because it was a highly thermal and fluids problem. And I hadn't done thermal in a very long time, since I had been in college. So I had to write this mathematical model, and something else I had not ever really done. And the guidance and the sense of pride I had when I finished that, and it was a fully functioning model, to sit back and be like, holy macro, like, I just made this, and this can predict things that are going to happen in space. This is going to influence the way that we design our machinery here so that it functions correctly, both on our test floor down here and then once it's launched. I mean, that's a feeling that I don't know if I could get, you know, socially or elsewhere. So it's special.
And a lot of people in our chat room are absolutely enthused of your infectious enthusiasm with that.
Well said.
And a lot of them are, I mean, multiple people have asked, like, what are your favorite projects that you've worked on in, like, the entirety of your career so far?
Oh, okay. So the program that's nearest and dearest to my heart is a program called IRA. So that's a water processor, essentially. So it uses a hybrid approach, which I was telling you earlier is kind of my thing. So essentially what happens is on a Martian surface, it doesn't have to be Mars, I suppose. It can be any celestial body. I mean, heck, it could be Earth too. It could be anywhere. But let's use Mars as an analog here. So in a habitat, all of the water that is used from the crew is collected. So that's urine, that's, you know, wastewaters, that's runoff, that's condensation collection, that's water runoff from your greenhouse, it's hand washing water, it's a shower or laundry water. And all of this is collected and pumped into something. It's a bioreactor that's been developed by Texas Tech University, run by a man named Andrew Jackson, and he's our technical partner on this program. And essentially, they use microbes to treat this gray water, essentially, and it studies the pH. So at that point in time, we pump that now pH steady effluent into a system, which is where I kind of take over. We have a team of about 2 or 3 people. And we have designed essentially a way to reclaim that water. So we use a distillation process and a few other things I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk about in order to regenerate that water into being potable. So we're essentially taking that water that would be discarded and making it drinkable again, so that we can close the loop on like, I guess hopefully I want it to work on board microgravity conditions, but right now it's designed for gravity environments, so celestial body.
Dare I ask, do you know what the efficiency of that system is? Is that something you can, or is that sort of the quiet things you can't talk about?
Yeah, well, the efficiency, we're actually in phase 2 right now. So for anybody who doesn't know how the phases of development work, there's a phase 1 essentially, and that's more mathematical development. It's proof of concept sort of stuff, more paper studies, maybe small development testing. And then there's a down selection at that point as you move into phase 2. And at phase 2 is kind of fun because you get to make your prototypes. So you get to make these full functioning systems. They don't necessarily have to be flight hardware because you're doing ground-based testing on it. And you're just, you're doing, characterization of your system essentially, and you're learning about what your designs are capable of actually producing. So it's moving from that theoretical into that practical or actual testing phase. And it's a 2-year portion that we're in there. And then from there, there's a final down selection out of phase 2. And then phase 3 is typically the system that goes into like experimental space testing. So we are nearing the last probably quarter of our phase 2 effort. So we've gotten actually a full functioning system up and running. And we were doing standalone testing here for a while. And the fun thing about that is there's specific funding that is available to phase 2. So you're not allowed to spend more than a certain amount of money. So the way that you would actually design it in space is slightly different because you're going to take into consideration things like efficiency, especially thermal and electrical efficiency. You're going to take that into account much more in final fabrication or design. So we kind of take a garage approach for some of those things that aren't necessary for full functionality. So it's hard to say right now exactly what the efficiency of the system would be, but it's pretty impressive the way that it is, even though it's not in flight condition yet.
And, in life support, you obviously have to deal with things like scrubbing carbon dioxide, or in this case, like you're working on reclaiming water. What are some things that in learning and developing life support systems, or just anything in what you've developed, that really surprised you? Like you were completely not expecting this to become an issue, and that is something that's kind of blew you away that you had to consider that?
I think that one of the coolest things in my education was learning about how space truly affects the human body. And also I think maybe the thing that I find most interesting is hypoxia, actually, if we're going to be honest. And that would be the body's reaction to having a lack of oxygen. And they've done a ton of testing on this, and it's super interesting. I mean, it's something that even after I've finished my education on and I've learned about, it's something I still like to do some research on my own because I just find it so incredibly curious. So hypoxia is something that a lot of high altitude pilots also face. But essentially the pressure inside of your cabin typically stays the same, so you don't feel a difference in physical pressure, but the partial pressure of oxygen, meaning the amount of oxygen in that same volume, is less. So you could have maybe more nitrogen or more something else, but it's not something that your body's actually utilizing, right? Because nitrogen's kind of a dead gas to us. So as that partial pressure of oxygen decreases and you're breathing in and consuming less oxygen, your body starts to do some pretty amazing and crazy things. So there are a couple of chambers throughout the United States in which some of the military pilots are trained for high altitude considerations, and a lot of astronauts are also trained to recognize their own signs of hypoxia because they're very different for each person. But essentially, they've had a lot of demonstrations in which you'll have an astronaut or a pilot sitting there, and they'll have their mask off, and you can't really recognize yourself when you're beginning to become hypoxic. And one of the major side effects of hypoxia is actually euphoria. So it's something that most people, once they begin experiencing hypoxia, which is a lack of oxygen to your brain sort of starts functioning. In fact, I was lucky enough to be able to do some of the hypoxia training myself when I was up at the University of North Dakota. And a lot of very interesting things happen. You're very sure of yourself throughout the entire process of oxygen depletion, essentially. So people will say things to you like, what's 4 plus 4? And you're like, well, it's 8, you know? But as time goes on, they're still asking you these easy questions and you're still sure of yourself, but you're actually incorrect. So it's like, what's 4 plus 3? And you're like, 8. You're like, what's 4 plus 3? And you're like, it's 8. And you know it. You know for certain that you are correct and that the answer is 8. And they'll have you write your name on these lines as time goes on. And you can look at the papers afterwards as it just becomes essentially nothing. They have you put these blocks that are just shapes into matching shapes. You know, like the kids' toys where you have to put the star in the star and the triangle in the triangle and such of that. Becomes increasingly difficult. And maybe the most impressive thing, I think, is you start losing your ability to see color. But you don't recognize that you're not seeing color. So they actually have you look at a sheet when they return oxygen to your body, and all of a sudden the entire world becomes bright. And you had never realized that it had gone dark in the first place. And it's kind of a scary thing because they've done a lot of this testing with pilots, and they'll yell at pilots and they'll say, your entire crew is going to die if you don't put your mask back on right now. And such a tiny percentage, almost 0% of the pilots actually return the mask to their own face. They have to have somebody in there all times to put it on because the euphoria is so great that they choose not to.
Wow.
Yeah, I was about to say, you know, going up mountains frequently,
which you have a lot of experience with.
Yeah, people at altitude become belligerent.
Do you?
No.
Oh, okay.
So, because you actually can, at least when you're going up mountains, it's not as drastic as you can in an altitude chamber with that. So you can kind of teach yourself to remove some of that from yourself. But yeah, things like that really do happen. You get euphoric and you sort of get, like, I know when I get above 10,000 feet, I kind of get this tunnel vision kind of thing going.
Yeah.
And then also really too, altitude sickness altitude affects everybody differently. Some people will be incredibly fit but completely crippled by altitude sickness, and then there will be people who are like not fit at all. This is like their first time going up at altitude, and they're breezing past everybody super fast. Some people get headaches. Some people start doing other body processes. I will not throw on everybody, but yeah, it's just, I gotta agree, hypoxia is amazing, if for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so essentially, at first I was gonna compare hypoxia to having one too many drinks, because that whole just overly confident 4 plus 3 is 8 thing, like, yeah, we've all been there. But then when you started getting into the more, like, the more abstract, like, you can't see colors and all of this, it's like, okay, this is beyond just a few drinks. This is like brain chemistry messing around stuff.
Yeah, well, actually, drinking alcohol starts a process that's very similar to hypoxia. I'm going to actually call it hypoxia because your oxygen content that's delivered to your brain is also diminished. So next time you're walking down the street and somebody tries to ask you what's wrong, you can tell them you're hypoxic.
Ooh, and then
yeah, they're not going to know what's up.
They're going to be like, do you need...
Yeah, I'm not drunk, I'm hypoxic.
Yeah, exactly. So
they're like, is that contagious?
Yeah. If you want a double whammy, drink alcohol at altitude.
Wow.
So, which I don't recommend.
I don't think that's a great idea.
Nobody's recommending that. Nobody is recommending that.
Don't do it. It's terrible.
And so I guess, and I've seen a couple of questions in the chat that are related to this, but a question I have is, so, you know, you have these suits and these systems that, you know, are to accommodate for and kind of diminish the crazy environment of space, but how do you go about testing these suits? I mean, I know that human testing can only go so far, but then, like, how do you test them so that you know for a fact they're ready to go into space with a human inside of them?
For sure. So actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but in 2014, Paragon broke a world record by sending Alan Eustachius to about 100, just shy of 136,000 feet, where he successfully completed the highest space dive on record. So essentially a gondola balloon inflates as it goes up into the atmosphere, and took Alan with him, and then he releases himself from that and fell back to Earth essentially in a super high altitude space jump. So Paragon was the company who got to design his suit, and actually we designed basically every component of that, other than I think the balloon itself. And we actually got a system in-house. It's called the EHF, and it's a chamber. It's a vacuum chamber, essentially, that is human rated. So you can put, we've tested several spacesuits actually also inside of this, and we can control everything between the makeup of gases in there. We can pull a vacuum. We can incorporate condensation or humidity. So we get to change the environment however we want to, and we can put any kind of sensors that we want into the system, and we just make sure that it's at a place that is safe to maintain life before we ever try anything with a human.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome.
I gotta say, jumping from 136,000 feet sounds awesome. So
yes,
I'm down.
Of course
Let's
you
do
are.
it.
I'd sign up.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So this perfectly goes into my next question, which was actually asked by Graham from YouTube. They asked, would you consider going to space if the opportunity arises? And I think this is a very unique question for you specifically, since you have firsthand experience working with the system that is ultimately going to keep you alive. Would you go up there?
I would, actually. And this answer, I think, has changed for me throughout time. And would I go to space? Certainly. Would I take a trip that had a one-way ticket to Mars, for example, to never come back? I don't think so. As much as I love space, I also love the comforts of, I like trees and birds and going for hikes and breathing in as much oxygen as I want to. So eventually I would like a return ticket. But if the opportunity came up where I was offered a trip to Mars or anywhere else in the solar system, and I had a Paragon life support systems on board, I would be very confident in taking that trip and beyond excited. So if there's anybody out there that wants to fund my trip to Mars, let me know. Hit me up. I'm on board.
And that's like the ultimate endorsement. Like, I have so much trust in these suits that I would use them and go up in space in them. So, nice.
All right, Brittany, I believe you. I just want to kind of get a question from Rebel in our IRC chat room. Because you talked about Paragon making the pressure suit for Alan to do his super high skydive, and Rebel is asking, how long does it take to create a suit from development to usage, and will this increase in speed and lower costs much with the commercial and tourist future? Plus, a lot of sizes and use cases, because obviously, a couple of weeks ago, still kind of trailing with that spacesuit issues on the space station. So kind of how long does it take, and what's that looking like?
I think that the StratX program went pretty fast. It only took a couple of years. But I think to develop a line of spacesuits that was applicable for, to accommodate all different types of astronauts, which of course anybody would want to do, it would take a great deal of time longer than that. I know that they've been working on, I think the NDX series of spacesuits up at the University of North Dakota under Pablo de Leon for quite a few years. And that's a testament to, he is such a hard worker and intelligent, has such a good team around him also. But it takes a lot of time to make sure these things are right. And in my opinion, it's something that you need to take the time to do because, public opinion plays into how much funding we get in our industry quite a bit. And they don't take well to you making a mistake once or twice. It's one of those industries where you succeed or, the first time around or you're out. When you have people's lives in your hands, it's not really something that you get to rush. It's not something that you get to take corners on. And of course you want to develop things as quickly as you can, but you also have to make sure that you're stopping and taking the time to check every single thing that needs to be checked. And you have somebody that you trust looking over your shoulder, and you're going through the correct phases of development with the correct people to make sure that these things are done in an appropriate manner. Because, because it matters. And so time-wise, I think it would depend. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the development of spacesuits, it's not like you get to design one spacesuit that is applicable for all applications. A lunar spacesuit is extremely different than a Martian spacesuit, which is extremely different from an intravehicle spacesuit, which is extremely different from a microgravity EVA suit. And a lot of that has to do with, yes, the environments and the pressurization of those environments, but also something I think a lot of people don't know is that the regolith on these different celestial bodies are incredibly different. So here we're used to our sand being very rounded because we have all of these natural processes, and we have this pressure that's on us, and we have our natural modes of essentially a rubbing down created by the pressures both undersea and the pressures that are put upon us by our just the atmosphere essentially. So these processes are lessened once you're on Mars, and then even further lessened when you're in somewhere like the lunar surface. So the lunar surface actually has regolith that is not rounded down at all. They're very sharp. If you look at it under a microscope, and we've gotten a lot of regolith back from some of our earlier missions, you can see that it's essentially little daggers. So we had some issues in the first line of development of our spacesuits that actually went up to the moon because we were getting microabrasions and tears in our spacesuits from conditions that we weren't quite ready for. So it's not like you can make just a one suit fits all or a one suit goes on any mission sort of deal. So you kind of have to end up with, a lot of things or specifically develop suits for the conditions that you're trying to, use them in.
Wow. Yeah. And it's quite a multitude of those two. And to kind of go with that, Karth Naren from our YouTube chat is asking, how effective is it to create a spacesuit from carbon fiber for multiplanetary environments? I guess kind of what are the materials that you have to use in order to make a spacesuit?
Oh man, I'm not really that familiar with it. Most of my programs are in the life support systems for spacecraft applications and for habitation. But I don't know if I've ever seen a spacesuit made from carbon fiber. I would think that, we have a lot of issues. Essentially, you're always pressurizing and depressurizing spacesuits. I think that carbon fibers, especially, maybe a bit, they're not very flexible. So I think that would cause a lot of issues in the fabrication of a spacesuit. So durability, I think, is one of the things that we care a lot about. Like you do have a lot of things that will rub up in high lifetime cycles, essentially, that'll be used for a spacesuit. So you're looking for durability. You're also looking for breathability, right? We have lots of different layers. It's not like one material makes up a spacesuit. It's not like our clothes where we just weave one thing together. There are different layers of a spacesuit that perform different functions for the environments that we're planning to work on. And so I think that question would be better suited to specific layers of a spacesuit rather than just the material of a spacesuit. A spacesuit is made of lots of materials.
Mm-hmm. I would hope so. I would hope it's not just like something that you can slap together and go to space. And it's like, I can't imagine how immensely complex it is, and for good reason. And there's a really great question from Destructor1701 from YouTube, and this is kind of a look into the future. And they ask, does Paragon have a strategy in mind for serving the potential space boom over the next decade? I'm thinking end-user spacesuits, plug-and-play life support for HABs, etc.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that we actually have a system that we've already designed that is super cool down in kind of like our museum. And essentially, we have already developed a kind of plug and play life support system, essentially. It houses a TCCA, a trace contaminant control assembly, which is responsible for taking out any particles that are in the environment. If there were to ever be a fire, it's a fire particle mitigation system. It works to pull humidity out of the cabin air. It does carbon dioxide scrubbing, so sort of your air revitalization. It has all of these components that are necessary essentially to maintain the cabin environment. And we originally designed it to be usable for 7 crew, and it's not a very big unit. They have these little dials too, where you can essentially dial in and out the function of each of these individual components of the life support system to hone in on how many crew members you have. So if you only have 4, you can kind of move the dial to 4, right? I mean, there's not a dial that says 4, but that's essentially the idea. And we have this entire unit that is capable of adapting to different crew sizes instead of continually redesigning the life support system every time that the mission plan changes and you have a different number of crew that is planned to, go on these, especially for long duration space flights. And I think that we're actually a little bit ahead of our industry. I think that one day this is going to be something that is insanely useful, and we're just kind of waiting for the rest of the industry to catch up.
Wow, so you're talking about like a modular life support system for a HAB.
Yes, I am.
That is so
very
cool. And actually, to kind of go into that a little bit, Black Box Camera Com on YouTube is asking, what is the longest duration that a spacecraft life support system is able to operate for without resupply? And I kind of want to throw a little bit on there too, because if you go to Mars and you do a mission that returns, that's at best case, shortest duration 3 years. So that means your life support system has to work effectively for 3 years continuously, minimum.
Yes.
So,
okay. Yeah, for sure.
What are the challenges of developing a system like that? Like, what are the huge problems? What are those hurdles?
Oh my gosh, there are many. But I guess I'll start on my kind of bioregenerative spiel here because that's very near and dear to my heart. But we have 3 different approaches for maintaining essentially life support for these missions. One of those is complete resupply. Like you mentioned, we're constantly sending goods out. And then we have a bioregenerative approach, and that is the approach that I care about, that is like nearest and dearest to my heart. And that is essentially using, like I said before, living organisms to provide a portion of your life support. Because I mean, we have microbes or bacteria or higher plants. This thing right here, am I pointing the right way? Oh, there, my plant. That naturally, it's a natural CO2 scrubber. It takes CO2 out of the environment and it pumps oxygen in. That's exactly what half of our physical chemical systems do, which is the third approach, by the way, is physical chemical. It's essentially using filters, chemicals, mechanical processes to provide life support. And it's a very interesting thing because bioregenerative approaches also have the ability to provide us nutrients. They clean water. We can pour dirty water essentially in the base of plants, and we can transpire clean water out of the leaves of the plants and then condense that later and collect it. This plant is doing, 3 or 4 of the jobs that I've been working for a very long time trying to design in a mechanical sense. So there's an interesting dichotomy, I would say, that exists because a lot of engineers don't really appreciate the science behind biology because the stability of it is concerning. It's hard to predict. And engineers like to be able to predict everything that's going to happen. And then you have these systems that are plausibly autonomous. Like once you get them started, they could last for like a long time, hundreds of years, I would suspect, if you had the right approaches to it. The downside of that being the nutrient cycle, which we're still looking into, but it is long periods of time. And the difference here is way back when we were starting essentially this space race, we had these ideas. NASA was doing research on algae and higher plants in order to pursue a bioregenerative approach to life support. But when you're just going to the moon and back, or when you're just going to Leo, that's not necessary. You can get there so quickly and back that it almost makes sense to perform resupply as your approach. But as you're moving further and further out into our solar system for extended times, when you're moving into long duration space flight, you can't have rendezvous missions that are expected to hurry up and get there and resupply these things. So now you get to a place where you're really in need of autonomous systems, and bioregenerative is really peeking its head. And the engineers are correct in saying that we do have some issues in stability. I mean, we don't exactly understand what could happen in radiation conditions that change the makeup of certain microbes that are in the soils or are internally to plants, and how that might change things. What if we have one certain thing that wipes out a bunch of our plants? We have ways of companion planting and doing things that ensure that is much less likely. I think that the real approach for future duration is a hybrid approach. So it's pairing bioregenerative approaches with physical chemical approaches. So it's kind of a buddy system. And we have progressed down the physical chemical road because of NASA's push during the space race. Essentially, we knew so much more about physical chemical systems by the time we were kind of in that race to the moon that it both made sense logistically and in a sense of research and what we had still to learn. So how long can we support people? If we take bioregenerative physical chemical approaches, a long time.
Good answer.
Way longer than 3 years.
Awesome.
That's good to know. So as we wind down, before we say goodbye, I really want to address the elephant in the room, which takes form as a hole in the wall. And a lot of folks in our chat, including Jared and I, are really concerned because I don't know if you know this, but right behind you, there is a hole in the wall that basically is exposing you to the vacuum of space. And we're really worried because you seem to be fine. Don't look now. Oh, just kidding. And so can you just please explain that? Because we're all quite worried that you just have the vacuum of space like right there and you're still lovely and healthy, but
Yeah, it's a paradigm, I don't know what's going on. I'm really into space decor, and I'm also really into Doctor Who. So this kind of reminded me of kind of like the crack in the universe.
Yes.
The Time Lords are trying to bust through my wall. So I just like to surround myself in things that make me happy, and this is one of them.
Nice. Well, it's spectacular, and it really does serve as kind of like the perfect backdrop for this entire interview. So thanks for kind of getting
I think anywhere in my house would.
Oh, nice. Well, Brittany, thank you so much for talking with us today. We're really excited to see the evolution of life support systems because that is basically what is going to enable humankind to progress further and further into space. So thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for inspiring so many others, whether you know it or not. So if our viewers would like to learn more, where can we send them?
You can check out, I think Paragon has a Twitter account, at Paragon SDC. We'd love to answer any of your questions. Also, you can find me either on Facebook or on Instagram, and I would love to talk space. I can talk space all day long. If you have any questions, Brittany Zimmerman on both of them. On Instagram, I'm at astronaut.brittany.c.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful weekend. But before we say goodbye, we would like to give a very thoughtful acknowledgement to our citizens of tomorrow. These folks, all of them, they all essentially help make this show happen and give us meaning and purpose. As you can see, there are several names up there as we go on through the different echelons. All of these folks contribute a certain amount of money per month, and if you would like to become one, you can head on over to patreon.com/TMRO. Look at that beautiful, beautiful wall of text. And actually, my name's on there now. I am now a supporter of my own dreams.
And also, you don't have to financially support us as well. You can head over to community.tmro.tv and actually, help us out in whatever ways that you can. Can you code? Can you do really cool graphic designs?
Yeah.
Can you subscribe to us? Can you like us? Can you ring the bell? Can you put it on your Facebook or whatever you got? So just share it around and show us to everybody that you
Please, and if you can't make it rain monetarily, make it rain emotionally. Share us with your friends and family. Get the word out about space. Just be you. And on that note, thank you so much for joining us. This was Tomorrow Space Orbit 12.13, and we will see you folks next week. Goodbye.
Oh my God! Rain emotionally, Jade.
I'm gonna tell my
was
therapist
brilliant.
that next week and be like,
Oh, my
therapist, excuse me, doctor.
Man. Rain emotionally.
Oh, boy.
That was amazing. I loved that show. I absolutely loved and adored that show.
I had a blasty blast.
I have learned a tremendous amount.
I have too. That was great.
This was so fun. Brittany, you're so cool.
Yes.
I can't even tell you.
Thanks, guys. Next time I'll have to come out to Anaheim. I want to see your guys' stuff.
Heck yeah.
Highly recommend it. So we've got a hole in our wall, too. Right here.
Yeah.
Big fancy.
Actually, multiple. There's even holes over there.
Yeah, who designed this,
And
by
there's
the way?
holes over
Jeez.
there, too.
Yes, but we use transparent aluminum, so we're fine.
True.
True. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yes, we will take you to Disney. Have you been to Disneyland?
I have been there when I was quite young. I think I was 6.
You have to try it as an adult.
Yes.
Completely different experience.
Okay, all right.
So much fun.
Yeah. It's a bit better.
I think I might actually renew my pass tonight. I haven't decided.
Do it. Do it.
What's the down
Jay,
payment again? Like $3,000?
Star Wars.
Yeah, seems about right.
Jade,
It's 3,000
Star
down
Wars.
and then about 10,000 a month. It's
And then
about,
your firstborn.
For the
Yeah,
love of
yeah.
God, Jade, Star Wars. Of
Lame.
all the people here who are gonna who I would expect to
know.
do backflips and handsprings, it would be you.
Then you can join us.
You right. You right.
Then you can join
Can you
us.
do a backflip?
Can anybody in this room do a backflip? Because I sure as hell can't.
No, I can't.
Not even on a trampoline. Oh yeah. Did you know that? Did you know it's a rumor? Shh. But did you know that they might discontinue annual passes altogether soon? And they'll keep everybody who has one will obviously be grandfathered in, but then they're thinking about just.
How many organs
Doing away.
do I give? Oh.
Anyways.
Huh. I didn't hear that.
Hadn't heard that either.
Interesting.
So, Brittany, this is
Yes.
this is, by the way, the post show where we're just dorking around talking about whatever we want. Maybe it's space related, maybe it's not. You are not in any way obligated to hang out. Although sometimes it is fun to learn unique non-space things about our guest. Like last week, I think it was, or the week before, we learned that the guest had a collection of hot sauces.
Yes.
That was pretty awesome. So, before you go, do you have any fun hobbies outside of space?
Do you have any hot sauces?
Or hot sauces? Or do you have a
I'm
collection of hot sauces?
I'm a sponsored disc golfer, so that's big.
What? That's cool.
We should have just talked about that the whole
And you're
time.
wait, you're a disc golfer, but you're so good, you're pro status, legit sponsored.
I'm legit sponsored, yeah. MVP Disc Sports sponsors me, so it's pretty nice because then I don't have to pay for my own hobby, which is dope.
That's radical.
Wow. Holy smokes.
That's what.
Yeah, so I compete probably 12 to 15 tournaments a year. It's kind of hard because I'm competing against a lot of people who don't actually have careers. Their career is disc golf, so it's kind of hard to keep up sometimes. But it's
you're doing
fun
it.
for sure.
Well, you're keeping people alive while disc golfing. So I
Yeah.
mean I mean people who are only disc golfing, what are they doing besides disc golfing?
I mean, they're enjoying their lives, I mean, that's one way to live. We all
what I
live
wanna
different ways, and theirs isn't wrong. I
you
just
like-
like mine better.
Do you science/engineer your disc golfing to try to find the optimal way to do things?
Yeah, actually, I'm trying to work with my sponsors right now. I think they're going to let me design my own mold for a disc. So And all right, here's some insider scoop that nobody else knows for you guys. I think I'm going to send a series stamp disc. So like we make discs and you can put different stamps on them. I'm going to make like a space disc, and I think I'm going to send them up on a high altitude balloon launch and have the first space disc.
Ooh,
nice.
Wow.
That'd be cool.
Are you gonna release it and have like a little like area for it to try to hit as it comes on the way down?
That would be fun. Probably not allowed by the FAA at all, but sounds like fun.
Like
FAA.
that stopped small satellite providers before.
Vax is saying you could use JP Aerospace, and actually I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess outside of that, I'm a glass blower. I read glass blow most Wednesdays, so that's
What?
my other thing.
Oh, just nonchalantly. Also, I'm a glass blower.
Yeah, I just make things out of glass.
Such a common hobby, you know. Just like I like walks on the beach. I like glass blowing.
Well, wait, did you make the sculpture behind you? There's a sculpture behind the plant. Did you do that?
Oh, that's actually metal. I didn't make that one, but I've made a lot of stuff. You want me to grab some of the stuff I made?
Yeah. Show and tell.
All right.
Love you.
All right, we're about to get moved here, I think. Or wait, what's going on?
Hold on.
I
to
missed
your
what
butts.
happened. What?
D-Mart says, "Is this the coolest guest ever?" Yeah, This is what, see, we get great guests when Lisa books them. When I book them, it's kind of like, but when Lisa books our guests, they are always amazing.
All right. So I make things like...
Whoa!
Wow.
That's insanely gorgeous.
Yeah, I just like keep my fruit in it. Other thing, I like to, this one's fusing, so that one's actually a blown process. This is the fusing
Looks
process.
like a cross section.
So,
like a meteor.
big plates. I've made like most of the cups in my house. I have vases all over the place that I've made. I don't know, just stuff.
Who are you? This is amazing.
We need to get you some Martian sand so you can
I'm a
make
weirdo. Yeah, space weirdo.
You are a Renaissance woman if I ever saw one.
So like, can you like? So if we go to the moon, or if you go to the moon or Mars, you could like melt down the regolith and you could make stuff out of it.
Yeah, that's a serious talk. Actually, we've actually talked about using ISRUs for 3D fabrication. Might not be out of glass per se, but it's a legitimate approach to, using things that are already there on planetary surfaces to make things that are useful for habitation.
Wow,
That's actually really neat.
holy moly!
Really quick, and I'm curious about this too. Do you have an Etsy? Do you sell your glass stuff?
Oh no, it's just
for you?
for me. I don't know. I've never tried to sell it.
That's so cool. Have you made like your cat like a glass water bowl?
No, I made a pendant, I guess, for my best friend, a little disc golf pendant, I guess. I haven't really gotten into jewelry a lot, so no, I haven't made anything for Mattia. Sorry, buddy.
I have a feeling there's a glass water bowl in the near future.
I think so. I actually have bowls that are glass that I could make into a water bowl, but he won't use it, so it doesn't matter. I've bought him the fanciest, like, fountain style bowls, and he just wants to drink out of the toilet.
Okay,
So-
you have that problem too? Mr. Rogers, he can see me clean his bowl. I make eye contact with him. I'm like, look what I'm doing. And then I'll pour like Evian, Voss, and he'll like sniff it, and then he'll go straight to the sink. And he doesn't, it's so weird. He like drinks or he licks the water in the sink, but not while it's running. But if it's been, I don't know, it's weird. He won't drink out. What's up with that? Why won't cats drink out of their bowls? Can you do some research on that? I think you need to do a career change from life support systems to cat support systems.
Well, I feel like
get back to me.
the cat support systems is a type of life support system. It just may be passive, not active.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Imagine spacesuits for cats.
I'm sure that's been done.
Oh, yeah, most certainly. I mean, they've done it for dogs. They must have done it for a cat, right? I don't know.
Is your cat
Sent
around?
turtles to space.
Yeah, where's your cat?
I locked him in the room so he wouldn't come. I'll go grab him.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, we'd love to see him.
Yeah, bring him out.
And Astro YYZ, yes, Senor Regilio is my feline son. And my cat is not played by Tom Hanks. He is played by a cat. I could talk about this all day.
I don't have a cat.
Well, then you can get out.
Here comes the cat.
Uh-oh, here we go.
All right, Mattia.
Wow.
That is a really pretty and disinterested cat.
You just are one handsome fluffer. Oh,
Yeah,
is
he's
he
cute.
is he a chunker? I can only see his face, but he looks thick.
Is he chunk?
Yeah.
Oh! Look at him. He's perfect. He's so much
He's the
man.
fattest Siamese cat in the world, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because those are usually really petite. He wears it well.
Yeah, they're usually quite skinny. But he's perfect weight. I take him into his annual things, and he's 13 pounds. He stays healthy. All right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is that a big cat?
What kind of
13
cat
pounds?
is Mr. Rogers?
I think he has to be a Russian blue because he has just the most beautiful grayish blue coat. He has little patches of white in certain areas. And also, like, when I inspect his skin, like, his skin is also blue. He was a rescue from a horse stable at medieval times. So we don't have too much genetic info on him, but he is confirmed awesome. That's all I know about him.
Jade, I'd like to back up a minute. A horse stable from medieval times had a blue cat?
They have, they have stable kittens. So the horse stables at medieval times, they're kind of open. They're like in a warehouse, but there's like a big open door to let the horses. Anyways, so a lot of times stray cats will come in and give birth because there's a lot of places that I guess are ideal for a cat to give birth. And there was a litter of kittens. There was about like 3 or 4. And Mr. Rogers was one such kitten. And according to the Knights, they said that he was the one who was the most like protective of the other kittens. He was the one who wasn't shy. He'd go up, he'd like claw at like horses, which is incredibly dangerous. But then he'd come up to people. And then so the other cats were taken. And then I was presented with the light of my life, and we've been together ever since.
Aww.
He's great.
Yes.
How did you come across
People ask me
Mattia?
how long do they last usually? I'm like, mine's gonna be forever.
Right?
I can't imagine a life without him. So let's not talk about that.
Exactly.
Oh, this is a great question.
He's also a rescue.
Can Paragon make space cat suits?
Please.
What? How much money are you willing to pay for it?
No, I think the question is how much money are you willing to pay for it? Because Paul also wants to know, if you went to Mars, would you take your cat?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I don't think he'd be suited for cat space. What do you think? You into cat space? It's a lot like the same space I would go to, but you might just hate it more. Yeah, I don't know. I'll ask him about it later. He's not too chatty right now.
He's like, I get it, Mom.
All right, are we winding down? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we're winding down. Yeah. All right, that was a
right.
fantastic interview, and love the glass blowing. Love all of it. It was really great.
You.
Yeah, you're fantastic.
Thanks
Yes,
so
we're
much
welcome
for
on
coming on.
anytime.
Thank you guys. I'll let you know when I'm in Anaheim. All
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely. We'll do Disney. It'll be great.
Do it.
We're going to be best friends.
Bye.
Bye.
See you
Yeah,
later.
we
All
are.
right.
So-
And thanks, Internet, for watching. That's our show this week. Thank you for all of the
Bye,
patrons.
guys.
We'll see you next week, and see you in news. Bye.
Bye, Internet.